Seeing the combat body guidance technique and the mental guidance technique, Lin Feng understood that they were wrong. They were wrong about everything. Humanity's current path of martial arts was fundamentally wrong. Life transitions were correct, but martial artists cultivating astral power as their foundation after life transition were gravely mistaken. Initially, Lin Feng thought that the physical body was useful and should be done like cultivating astral power. Now that he thought about it, it was ridiculous as well. Cultivating the physical body was also a huge mistake. Do you understand now? This is your opportunity, lucky human youngster. The red light in Longbetham's eyes flickered, as if it was also envious of Lin Feng. It had waited for more than 3 billion years to gift such an opportunity, but Lin Feng was the only one who obtained it. Lin Feng took a deep breath and asked in a low voice, "I'm the only one who obtained them? You said before that you gave out many genetic fusion devices, and there's no lack of people who obtained them. What if someone obtains it again in the future? If someone obtains it again, the genetic fusion device will not be activated. Now that you have come here and obtained an opportunity, all the other genetic fusion devices will be switched off. No one else will be able to enter here before you die." Lin Feng's eyes lit up. In that case, the secret of his genetic fusion device could be kept. However, it was a little unfair. Why use such a method? Since so many genetic fusion devices have already been deployed, why not let more people obtain genetic fusion devices? What if an outstanding person appears among them? Under normal circumstances, this would be the method for finding more candidates. However, Longbetham shook its head and said, "This is Master's rule. Master once said that the vast universe is too dangerous. In order to survive in the vast universe and stand at the top of countless lifeforms, besides strength, luck is also very important. Sometimes, luck is even more important than strength. Therefore, if someone is lucky enough despite not obtaining the genetic fusion device, or failed to achieve 4 life transitions despite obtaining the genetic fusion device, like you, they will be rewarded with opportunities. This is your luck." Lin Feng nodded thoughtfully. Indeed, sometimes luck was really important. He seemed to have obtained the genetic fusion device through luck as well. Someone might have noticed this metal ball in the library of Central Sea University, or someone might have deliberately placed it there and thought it was a toy. Updates by Com. However, Lin Feng happened to obtain it. In the end, he broke the genetic lock and underwent a life transition. It was the same this time. Lin Feng had also come to the underground cave by accident because he was assisting the North Mountain base. In the end, he had encountered Longbetham. This was luck. I've already obtained the combat body guidance technique and the Bemond mental guidance technique. Is this the legacy? Legacy? You are still far from it. This is just an opportunity for you. Without 4 life transitions, you will not be able to obtain the true legacy at all. Even the mental guidance technique only has 4 levels. Only after you undergo 4 life transitions will you come here to receive the true legacy. Only then can you be considered a registered disciple of Master. Lin Feng was a little surprised. The combat body guidance technique and the mental guidance technique in his memory were already very powerful. Even so, they were not the true legacy. Just how powerful was that mysterious Bemond? "Is your master a planetary life form?" Longbetham said proudly. "My master, the great Lord Bemond, is a powerful galactic life form." "A galactic life form? Not a universal life form." Lin Feng actually shook his head. However, Longbetham glared at him and said angrily, "Humph! Do you know how great planetary life forms are? Your planet can be destroyed with ease by planetary life forms, let alone galactic life forms. The Great Master can destroy your planet with a breath." Destroy a planet with a breath? Lin Feng did not quite believe it, but from the looks of it, Longbetham did not seem to be lying. However, he had never seen such a powerful life form, so there was no concept for it in his mind. However, the master of Longbetham must be an extremely powerful entity in the universe. You can cultivate the mental guidance technique here now. You cannot cultivate the combat body guidance technique for the time being. You have already undergone 1 life transition, and even your metamorphosis has ended, so you already missed the opportunity to cultivate the combat body. Fortunately, this is only the first life transition. Missing it is not a big deal. It will be fine as long as you do not miss for the second, third, and especially the fourth life transitions in the future. Lin Feng looked at the time. It had been almost 3 days since he arrived underground. There was still an hour or two left. Hence, he shook his head and said, I have to rush back to the surface as soon as possible. I can cultivate the mental guidance technique anywhere, so there's no hurry. By the way, if I leave, what will happen to this spaceship? Will it be discovered? Of course it will not be discovered. I have already controlled that lesser life form. Can guard this place. You can leave if you want, but you have to take me with you. Bring you along? Lin Feng was a little hesitant. Longbetham's size was too conspicuous. Once he brought it out, it would definitely be discovered. Not my body, but a portion of my consciousness. Well, you will not understand even if I tell you. Give me your communicator. After Lin Feng handed the communicator to Longbetham, Longbetham's electronic eyes shot out another red light that enveloped the communicator. About a few minutes later, Longbetham returned the communicator to Lin Feng. That's it. Of course. I am already in your communicator. What? Lin Feng listened carefully and realized that the voice was actually coming from his communicator. He picked up the communicator and saw that the screen was displaying the mechanical head of Longbetham. The most important thing in our mechanical civilization is consciousness. I am merely transmitting a portion of my consciousness into the network through your communicator. There is no need to be nervous. No one will discover you if you're uploaded to the network. With your current technology level, no one will discover me even if you develop for another 1,000 years. Lin Feng was indeed unable to understand a life form like Longbetham. A mechanical life form and one that could even leave the body? It was truly unimaginable. Perhaps if those scientists in human society studied it, they would be able to understand something. Since he could not understand it, Lin Feng did not keep thinking about it. He took the communicator and left the spaceship directly. As soon as he stepped out of the door, Lin Feng saw the huge metal door slowly close. Without Longbetham's order, no one could open the door of the spaceship again. The giant pangolin beast was still outside the door. However, the giant pangolin beast had already become the guardian and was subdued by Longbetham. At this moment, it was lying on the ground and growling in submission. By the way, Longbetham, this was originally the territory of the terrestrial ants. Now that the queen ant has been killed by this pangolin beast, what if we martial artists invade this place and discover the spaceship? It is very simple. I will just choose another queen ant among the terrestrial ants. Soon, Longbetham chose a queen ant among the terrestrial ants, though it was only at the level of an ordinary demon. He did not know how Longbetham communicated with the terrestrial ants, but in the end, the terrestrial ants somehow all obeyed Longbetham's commands. With a queen ant, it would be a piece of cake for the terrestrial ants to defend this place with their terrifying numbers. After doing all this, Lin Feng did not linger any longer. He returned to the surface through the underground tunnel he had come from previously. When Lin Feng returned to the ground, he actually encountered many pangolin beasts and terrestrial ants. However, be it the pangolin beasts or terrestrial ants, all of them ignored Lin Feng, as if they had not discovered him at all. Hence, Lin Feng's journey back was exceptionally smooth. He quickly passed through the passageways and returned to the surface. There! Brother Lin Feng, are you all right? As soon as Lin Feng returned to the ground, he saw a few figures. They were the chief commander of the North Mountain Base, Mole, and the other 3 third-level metamorphic realm martial artists. From the looks of it, they must have been waiting for some time. Lin Feng smiled and said, I'm fine. There were close shaves, but no actual danger. By the way, what did you find underground? All the terrestrial ants on the ground have disappeared, and they retreated in a very orderly manner. According to my experience, it should be the queen ant's order. That's why I'm worried about Brother Lin Feng and came here early to wait. Had Brother Lin Feng still not returned, I was prepared to go underground to support you. Although Mole was a little arrogant, he was a fairly decent man. He kept his word of waiting for 3 days. Once the 3 days were up, he would immediately go underground to search for Lin Feng. It had to be known that, according to Mole's guess, there was a queen ant underground. Faced with a huge number of terrestrial ants, once the terrestrial ants became organized with a queen ant, forget 4/3 level metamorphic realm martial artists, even 43rd level metamorphic realm martial artists might not be able to gain any advantage against them. This was especially so since it was the anthill of the terrestrial ants underground. Lin Feng had long come up with an answer. He said with a solemn expression, "There's nothing unusual underground. I did discover the queen ant, but something seemed to have happened to that queen ant. It seemed to have recovered only not long ago. There are just too many terrestrial ants underground, and the queen ant had recovered. I was afraid that something would go wrong, so I returned to the surface. As expected, there's a problem with the queen ant, but it shouldn't be a big problem. It would have been very dangerous to continue staying underground." Rumble. As soon as Mole finished speaking, the ground shook violently. Immediately after, the underground tunnel that Lin Feng had just come out of collapsed and was completely blocked. Updates by Calm. When Mole saw the collapsed tunnel, he said with lingering fear, "Fortunately, brother Lin Feng came out. Otherwise, once the tunnel collapsed, you would have been trapped underground completely." Being trapped underground was basically a death sentence. Although Lin Feng was also very surprised, he guessed that it was probably Longbetham's order to completely block the passage, so that no one could discover the secret of the spaceship. "All right, let's go back first." Lin Feng did not dare to inquire Longbetham in public, so he returned to the North Mountain Base with Mole and the others. When the people from the North Mountain Base and South Mountain Base saw Lin Feng return, they were also overjoyed. Previously, when they heard that Lin Feng had entered the underground alone, the martial artists from the South Mountain Base almost clashed with the martial artists from the North Mountain Base. They felt that Lin Feng entering the underground alone was clearly a conspiracy by the North Mountain Base. Of course, in the end, it was proven that they were overthinking things. However, this also reflected Lin Feng's current prestige in the South Mountain Base. In a short period of time, Lin Feng had become an indispensable figure of the South Mountain Base. Brother Lin Feng and the martial artists of the South Mountain Base, everyone in the North Mountain Base is very grateful to you for coming all the way here to support our North Mountain Base and resolving the crisis for us. Mole was also very excited. If not for Lin Feng this time, the North Mountain Base would really be in danger. Hence, his gratitude towards Lin Feng was sincere. "Brother Mole, you don't have to say this. Your North Mountain Base has supported our South Mountain Base many times too in the past. Currently, we are the only two bases near South Mountain City. All the more reason we should watch out for each other." "Haha, you're right. Watch out for each other." Mole laughed loudly and put away his contempt for the South Mountain Base from then on. He knew that as long as Lin Feng was in the South Mountain Base, the South Mountain Base would definitely not be inferior to the North Mountain Base. Lin Feng and the people from the South Mountain Base did not stay in the North Mountain Base for long. Lin Feng still wanted to go back and digest his gains this time, especially the opportunities he obtained underground. Hence, the South Mountain Base quickly bade farewell to the North Mountain Base under Lin Feng's lead. After returning to the South Mountain Base, Lin Feng chose to enter seclusion immediately. The people in the South Mountain Base were not too surprised. They were already used to Chief Commander Lin Feng's frequent seclusion. In the secret chamber, Lin Feng first counted his gains. Lin Feng had gained a lot from this trip to the North Mountain Base. In the battle at the North Mountain Base, he had killed 21 terrestrial ant demons alone, earning him a total of 105 merit value. Including the original 242 merit value, Lin Feng now had a total of 347 merit value. The speed at which he earned merit value was like a rocket. Even ordinary Divine Realm martial artists might not be able to earn merit value as quickly as Lin Feng. The merit value earned was secondary. The real boon was the opportunity underground, especially the combat body guidance technique and the mental guidance technique. They almost subverted the mainstream martial arts that martial artists cultivated now. That was the cultivation system of the universe. It was a cultivation technique passed down by the mighty entity that dominated the cosmos. When Lin Feng received the combat body guidance technique, the scenes he saw had already deeply shaken him. It was impossible for him to give up on this powerful cultivation technique and continue cultivating martial arts. Unfortunately, he had missed the opportunity to condense his combat body during his first life transition. Now, he could only cultivate the mental guidance technique. And this mental guidance technique seemed to be the most important thing instead. Longbetham, where are you? Lin Feng raised his arm and shouted at the genetic fusion device. Buzz. Longbetham's face appeared on the genetic fusion device. It said unhappily, "Do not disturb me if there's nothing important. I have been slumbering for so many years. Now that I have finally emerged, I must take a good look around." Lin Feng felt a little helpless. He couldn't control Longbetham. The other party was a mechanical life form, and its technological level far exceeded the current level of human society. There was nothing he could do about Longbetham. At the very least, Lin Feng could not understand the current way in which Longbetham survived in the networks. Longbetham, is it okay for me to cultivate the mental guidance technique now? Although Lin Feng had obtained the mental guidance technique, he still had to ask for Longbetham's opinion before cultivating it. After all, Lin Feng knew almost nothing about the cosmic cultivation system. Of course, there is no problem. Your mental power is actually not bad. It should not be a problem for you to master the first level. Just cultivate diligently according to the mental guidance technique master provided you. All right, if there is nothing else, do not disturb me. With that, Longbetham disappeared again. Mechanical life forms are so miraculous. Lin Feng sighed sincerely. He actually had a lot of questions about mechanical life forms, but Longbettam was very busy for the time being, so there was nothing he could do. He'd better cultivate the mental guidance technique first. Only by breaking through in the mental guidance technique would Lin Feng be able to condense his combat body during his second life transition in the future. Hence, Lin Feng closed his eyes and immersed himself in the memory of the mental guidance technique. The mental guidance technique was actually a cultivation technique for cultivating mental power. All along, be it for metamorphic realm martial artists, divine realm martial artists, or even the Nine Sages, there had been almost no cultivation methods regarding mental power. However, mental power was very important. For example, breaking the genetic lock and achieving life transitions were mainly the effects of mental power. There were also some astral martial arts that required immense mental power to unleash greater power. Mental strength was crucial to both martial artists and cultivators of the cosmic cultivation system. To a certain extent, mental guidance technique was far more precious than combat body guidance technique. In the vast universe, the mental guidance technique was generally secret and not imparted, whereas the combat body guidance technique could still be obtained as long as one was willing to pay a price. Lin Feng was immersed in the Bemond mental guidance technique. Actually, this was the first time he was checking out this Bemond mental guidance technique. As a mental guidance technique created by a great galactic life form, it was naturally extraordinary. After Lin Feng immersed himself in his memories, his consciousness seemed to have drifted into the cosmos. His surroundings were a pitch-black universe, empty and boundless, lonely, cold, eternal, and dark. These might be the perpetual themes of the universe. In the universe, life was very insignificant, yet at the same time life was also the greatest existence of all. Boom! What did Lin Feng see? He saw an explosion that seemed to sweep through the entire starry sky of the universe. In the current understanding of humanity, there was a view that the universe came from the Big Bang. Through continuous explosions, a large amount of matter was produced, and the universe continued to expand until it became boundless. Lin Feng did not know if this was correct. He was not an astronomer, he was just a martial artist. He knew very well that he was cultivating the mental guidance technique now, and this memory was the memory image from the mental guidance technique. As the huge explosion calmed down, gradually, many meteorite fragments appeared in the void. Then, these meteorite fragments slowly expanded in fixed orbits, and finally became a planet. Some slowly shrank instead and eventually turned into cosmic dust, disappearing completely. Updates by Com. What is this? Lin Feng was a little confused. The scene disappeared, followed by the specific mnemonic of the Bemond mental guidance technique. What explosion? Lin Feng was dumbfounded. At the same time, he was also very shocked. He finally understood why there was a scene of the Big Bang in his memory. This Bemond mental guidance technique was actually a simulation of the Big Bang in the universe. Mental power can actually explode? Lin Feng actually did not even know what mental power was. He even confused mental power with willpower. However, as his understanding of the mental guidance technique deepened, he gradually understood that mental power and willpower were completely different. Normally, the tempering of mental power was very complicated and did not have much effect. For example, tempering oneself to the limit every day resulted in a lack of mental power and caused one to be very tired and muddle-headed every day. Moreover, the effects would not be very ideal. This was not the case with the Bemond mental guidance technique. Rather, it allowed people to sense their mental power first, before guiding their mental power to explode. Then, through special methods, they could condense the mental power that had dissipated from the explosion. This repeated training could quickly increase mental power. Of course, there was also a certain degree of danger. The most dangerous process was after the explosion of mental power. If it could not be condensed again, it might even lead to mental death. In other words, they'd become mentally handicapped or even vegetative. To a certain extent, mental power was actually consciousness. There was not much difference. Mental power was not the physical body. If it were the body, Lin Feng had the undying characteristic that could allow him to recover instantly. However, once his mental power went wrong, no one could save him. However, when mental power exploded, the Bemond guidance technique naturally had a certain method to avoid being unable to condense it again. Still, it required a strong willpower to persist. Willpower was different from mental power. Willpower belonged to every individual living being and was very subjective. For example, an ordinary person's mental power might be worlds apart from a sage's, but their willpowers might be the same. In fact, an ordinary person's willpower might not even be inferior to a sage's. Willpower was ethereal. Even the great galactic-level lifeforms could not control it. After the explosion of mental power, it required a powerful will to condense it. Then, the mental guidance technique could be successfully cultivated. Lin Feng was rather confident in his own willpower. He had experienced so many hardships since he was young, and had relied on his strong will to avert danger on numerous occasions. Although the Bemond mental guidance technique was somewhat dangerous, the mental guidance technique was just too important. It was the foundation of the cosmic cultivation system. He could not give up just because there was some danger. Since he had already made his decision, Lin Feng did not hesitate at all. He began to gradually detect his mental power. According to the method of the Bemond guidance technique, he did sense his mental power, which was in his mind. In a daze, Lin Feng seemed to see a thick fog in his mind. It was a vast expanse of whiteness, and he could not see it clearly at all. That mist-like substance was actually mental power. This is mental power? How miraculous! Lin Feng tried to control it but found it very difficult. His mental power was not under his control. This was normal. He needed to train slowly. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, Lin Feng could finally barely manage to control the mental power in his mind. Just this point alone made him stronger than countless Divine Realm and Divine Realm martial artists. However, this was only the first step. After that, he would truly begin cultivating the Bemond mental guidance technique. He controlled the dense, fog-like mental power in his mind. Boom! Without any hesitation, Lin Feng controlled all the mental power in his mind, and it exploded like a flash of thunderbolt. At this moment, his mind felt as if it was about to split open. It was as if something had exploded in his mind. At the same time, his mind gradually went blank. Even his consciousness was blurry, but Lin Feng's will was indeed very strong. He used his extremely tough will to restrain a large amount of explosive mental power. Condense! The surging mental power in Lin Feng's mind began to condense rapidly under the restraint of his will. Not long after, his mental power became like a thick fog again. Moreover, the thick fog churned. Even without looking carefully, he could clearly feel that his mental power had increased. It's really effective, but it really hurts. Took another 3 days for Lin Feng to recover. The mental power in his mind had indeed increased, but the process of mental power explosion was too painful. As long as one had experienced that kind of pain once, they would never want to experience it again. Even Lin Feng, who had such a strong will, found it a little unbearable. No wonder the Bemond mental guidance technique was so difficult to cultivate. Anyone with a slightly weaker will would only be unable to cultivate it successfully, but also be unable to condense it again due to the explosion of their mental power, becoming crippled in the process. Again, I have to master the first level first. Lin Feng gritted his teeth. Even though the pain was daunting to think about, he could only grit his teeth and continue to endure the pain that was worse than death. If he wanted to successfully cultivate the mental guidance technique, he would have to endure such pain. In the conference room of the Supreme Commander's Department, there was no sage conference this time, but there were projections from 3 sages. They were the Invincible Fist Sage of the Myriad Academy, Sage Bingyu of the Polar Academy, and Sage Cass of the Holy Capital Academy. The Invincible Fist Sage was the first to speak. The effect of implementing the new policy for martial artists is not bad, right? At least there are more martial artists who are eager to apply to the frontline in my Myriad Academy. Of course, the status of frontline martial artists is so high. Even if they die in battle, there's nothing to worry about. The martial artists are naturally eager to participate. Recently, the pressure on the frontline base has been relieved by quite a bit. The new policy for martial artists should have been implemented sooner. Sage Cass also sighed. Speaking of which, we have to thank that little fellow. If not for that little fellow who could cause trouble in Stone City, the new policy for martial artists might not have been implemented so quickly. The Invincible Fist Sage and the other 2 first chatted about the new policy for martial artists for a while, before getting down to business. Sage Bingyu, it's the once-in-a-decade martial arts competition of our 3 major martial academies. It's your Polar Academy's turn to host it this year, right? Bingyu nodded and said, "That's right. It's the Polar Academy's turn to host it. Should the rewards still be the same as before?" "No, I think they should be reduced. People from your Polar Academy get first place every time. This martial arts competition is becoming more and more boring." Sage Cass was a little disgruntled. "Sage Cass, your Holy Capital Academy is filled with the cream of the crop. Our Polar Academy is filled with ordinary martial artists. Who can you blame for being disappointing? Not only should the rewards not be reduced, I think they should be increased." The 2 sages did not mince words around each other. The Invincible Fist Sage shook his head and said, "The 2 of you, do stop arguing. I think everything can just go on as usual. Why are you guys the ones arguing anyway? When has my Myriad Academy ever not come in last in the martial arts competition? Your 2 academies have taken all the advantages, and you don't see me complaining." Indeed, although the overall power of the 3 top academies was about the same in terms of number of experts, the Polar Academy actually had more. The Polar Academy only recruited some very talented geniuses. Whether they were commoners or came from wealthy families or martial clans, as long as one was talented, they could enter the Polar Academy. Updates by Com. As for the Holy Capital Academy and the Myriad Academy, there were more or less some restrictions. Overall, the quality of the students of the Polar Academy was naturally superior to the 2. Then it's decided. Sage Bingyu and the Invincible Fist Sage both agreed. Sage Cass could do nothing about it. After all, the martial arts competition that was held once every 10 years by the 3 major academies had been held for many years. Basically, more than 80% of the top 3 would eventually undergo a second life transition and become Divine Realm martial artists. Hence, it was very meaningful for this martial arts competition to continue. But suddenly, a few more figures were projected in the conference room. They were the projections of the other 6 sages. "Why are you here? No one is holding the conference of sages, right?" The Invincible Fist Sage found it a little strange. Apart from the conference of sages, the 9 sages would almost never send down projections together. Elder Kong said with a smile, "The response to the new policy for martial artists is very good. The entire human society has entered a new era. Although it's still a little too early to call it the martial arts era, since we are martial artists, we have to do something beneficial to the development of martial arts. We feel that it's very good that your 3 major academies hold a martial arts competition once every decade. Therefore, we have also decided to participate in this martial arts competition. You want to participate too? The Invincible Fist Sage, Sage Bingyu, and Sage Cass all looked at each other, not knowing what Elder Kong and the others meant. How will you participate? The Invincible Fist Sage asked. Our 5 major factions will jointly hold the first global martial arts competition. We will invite all the metamorphic realm martial artists in the world to participate in the competition. We will do a global live broadcast so that everyone can clearly see how powerful martial artists are. This is a good opportunity to promote martial arts and showcase martial artists. Accompanying the new policy for martial artists, it can also stir up the enthusiasm for everyone to practice martial arts. Moreover, there must be generous rewards. Money, merit value, status, reputation, all of them must be given. In fact, all 9 of us sages must appear as projections. In short, the global martial arts competition jointly held by the 5 major factions must become the name card of martial arts. It can even bring the entire society to enter the martial arts era. Elder Kang's ambition was great, truly great. As the first sage to undergo for life transitions, Elder Kong had paved a new path for all martial artists, and had already become a martial legend. In terms of status, Elder Kong was definitely the most prestigious among all the sages. He had almost been deified. And now, this global martial arts competition proposed by Elder Kong was going to help the entire human society enter the martial arts era. This was not to abandon technology, but to focus on martial arts and use technology as a supplement. In the past, there was actually a lot of controversy and disagreement between martial arts and technology. No one could gain the upper hand, causing some resources to be wasted. Currently, human society was thriving. If the status of martial arts could be established so that human society could have fewer debates and enter the martial arts era directly, without so many controversies and so much waste of resources, both martial arts and technology would definitely improve qualitatively. However, the development of a society had a certain pattern. In the past, even if the 9 sages had such an idea, it could not be realized. However, it was different now. With the advancement of technology, communication, and information, martial artists prospered. As long as the 9 sages were determined, and the 5 major factions cooperated fully, there was a high chance that they could promote progress and change in human society. For example, the new policy for martial artists was currently very effective. What Elder Kong meant was to take advantage of the new policy for martial artists and push it to greater heights, so that the entire society can develop into a society in a martial arts era. Elder Kong, actually, we can take it step by step. With the current situation of the entire human society, perhaps in a few decades, we can naturally enter the martial arts era. We do not have to rush things. The Invincible Fist Sage frowned. He knew that Elder Kong meant well and was considering things for the sake of the human society. However, it was very difficult to push for societal progress and development by will. Moreover, no one could be sure if there would be anything inappropriate. Taking things step by step and allowing society to develop naturally was the best choice. Elder Kong shook his head. He suddenly used the projector to show a blurry photo. With a long sigh, he said, "All of you, take a look. This is a photo taken by the military recently." Huh? 9 demon emperors are gathered in the Black Wind Canyon. What are they trying to do? When the other sages saw this photo, their expressions suddenly changed, and they appeared very solemn. Each of the 9 demon emperors rules over a region. Normally, even approaching each other slightly would result in an earth-shattering battle to the death, let alone meeting with each other. However, they are all gathered in the Black Wind Canyon, and there are no signs of fighting among themselves. We need to prepare for the worst. That terrifying demon in the Black Wind Canyon may be about to awaken. What? It's really about to awaken? The expressions of the 9 sages changed drastically to looks of horror. At the mention of the Black Wind Canyon, all the sages' expressions changed drastically. Ever since the birth of sages with 4 life transitions in human society, humans had expanded everywhere and were on the offensive against the surrounding dire beasts. The 9 sages could even deal with some known demon emperors. However, only the Black Wind Canyon, the Dead Sea of Abyss, the Tashikar Desert, and the 18 grottos of Dragonhead were classified as the 4 forbidden places by the 9 sages. This was because they could not venture deep into each of these forbidden places, and it seemed like there were astounding secrets hidden within them. Among them, Elder Kong and the other 3 sages had once joined forces to scout the Black Wind Canyon. In the end, they were stopped by a few demon emperors. However, Elder Kong and the others could sense a faint, terrifying aura in the Black Wind Canyon. Just that aura alone made them tremble from the bottom of their hearts. It was obvious that there was a terrifying greater demon in the Black Wind Canyon that far exceeded the demon emperors. However, for some reason, it seemed to have fallen into a deep slumber. Elder Kong was stationed near the Black Wind Canyon, especially to monitor every move in the Black Wind Canyon. If, as the sages had expected, the terrifying greater demon in the Black Wind Canyon had awakened, even if the 9 sages joined forces, they might not be able to stop that demon. At that time, the entire human race would suffer a devastating blow. Hence, when they heard that there was movement in the Black Wind Canyon, all the sages could no longer remain calm. Elder Kong shook his head and said, "I'm not sure if that greater demon has awakened, but I've already increased the surveillance. I'll inform you the moment there's any movement. That's why I feel that time is of the essence. We may not have that much time to allow human society to develop step by step. We need a period of explosive growth, more powerful martial artists, and more sages even. The martial arts competition this time is limited to metamorphic realm martial artists. Apart from hoping that they can set an example to attract the attention of the entire society, there's another important goal. It's to choose the strongest metamorphic realm martial artist to enter that ancient ruin." The invincible fist sage's heart skipped a beat. He said in a low voice, "Elder Kong, you mean to allow the martial artists who won the martial arts competition this time enter that ship? We already know that that ship should be an ancient civilization's weapon of war. Only metamorphic realm martial artists can enter without encountering violent attacks. However, we've already sent so many people in before and they all failed. Isn't this too dangerous?" Elder Kong shook his head and sighed. "What else can we do? That ancient civilization ruin left behind a weapon of war. Once we can obtain it, it'll even be equivalent to having another sage. It's worth the risk." The other sages also fell silent. Although human society seemed to be thriving and flourishing, who could tell that human society had long been in crisis? Updates by Calm humans were so insignificant in this world. In that case, we'll do as Elder Kong says. The invincible fist sage, Sage Bingyu, and Sage Cass looked at each other. In reality, Elder Kong and the other 3 sages must have already discussed it beforehand when they came together. They were just waiting for the 3 of them to agree. Although the 3 of them did not really want to do this, the situation compelled it. Just as Elder Kong had said, humans did not have much time left to develop step by step. All right, let's confirm the date of the martial arts competition first. Then, the 5 major factions will mobilize all the channels to promote the martial arts competition in advance. Everyone will know about it, and it will become a grand event for all of humanity. No problem. Our consortium faction can mobilize the media to publicize it. Our military faction can also publicize it in the military. Our academic faction will immediately inform all the metamorphic realm martial artists under our command. The 9 sages had reached a consensus. The rest could be left to the 5 major factions. In the secret chamber of the South Mountain base, Lin Feng repeatedly induced his mental power to explode before condensing it again. Even though his mental power was growing rapidly, the pain really exhausted him physically and mentally. This had nothing to do with will. No matter how strong one's will was and how much pain one could endure, if one's mind was tense for a long time and they were in extreme pain, their body would not be able to withstand it. It's about time. I can condense a mental power sphere now. Lin Feng took a deep breath and controlled the mental power in his mind to spin wildly. Buzz. A storm had already brewed in Lin Feng's mind. A large amount of mental power spun and compressed like a tornado. Finally, as it continued to spin and compress, it gradually condensed into a small sphere emitting white light. Success! "I've finally mastered the first level of the Bemand mental guidance technique." Lin Feng was very happy. After such a long time and enduring a pain worse than death for so many times, he had finally succeeded. The white sphere as thick as a thumb condensed in his mind was the mental power sphere. The mark of the first level of the Bemand mental guidance technique was to condense a mental power sphere. What did it feel like to cultivate the mental guidance technique? Lin Feng felt that his mind was especially clear now, and it was as if there was an invisible eye. As his mental power extended, he could see the distant scenery very clearly. More importantly, Lin Feng could now control his mental power freely. This was the most important thing. What did this mean? It did not just mean that when he underwent another life transition in the future, he could guide his genes to restructure into a combat body. Even now, Lin Feng could easily do one thing: compress astral power. 8,006 strands of astral power. Previously, I felt that it would take an indefinably long amount of time to compress astral power and break through to the third level of metamorphic realm. But now, after condensing the mental power sphere, a mere 8,000 strands of astral power is nothing. Lin Feng had great confidence. After he mastered the first level of the mental guidance technique, the first thing he did was compress astral power and break through to the third level of metamorphic realm. Astral power compression. Lin Feng mobilized all his astral power. More than 8,000 strands of astral power were simply too massive. In the past, Lin Feng would not have dared to compress such a massive amount of astral power so casually. But now, forget about a mere 8,000 strands of astral power. Even if there were several times more, Lin Feng could still easily compress them. Buzz. The mental power sphere in Lin Feng's mind shook slightly, then spun. He only mobilized a portion of his mental power. Immediately, the formidable mental power seemed to have transformed into a huge hand that suppressed the boiling astral power forcefully. More than 8,000 strands of astral power were compressed in an instant. Moreover, no matter how much they struggled, they could not break free from the suppression of mental power. Astra Devourer. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Lin Feng quickly circulated the Astra Devourer technique, attracting a massive amount of star power from the cosmos. In an instant, it descended into the secret chamber. The cold star power surged towards Lin Feng like a rolling wave, enveloping Lin Feng's entire body tightly, and transferring star power continuously. Boom! Lin Feng's body shook violently, as a large amount of star power surged in and transformed into a large amount of astral power. Lin Feng's body boiled. He already had more than 8,000 strands of astral power initially, and now they were all boiling. Third level of metamorphic realm. Lin Feng broke through again. The speed was so fast that even Lin Feng himself found it unbelievable. It had only been a month since he broke through to the second level of metamorphic realm. It had only been 3 months since he came to the South Mountain base. Third level of the metamorphic realm. The current Lin Feng was already genuinely in the third level of metamorphic realm. In reality, under the cosmic cultivation system, there were not so many minor realms between the first and second life transitions. Astral power was just a product of martial artists taking the wrong path. The minor realms divided according to astral power were even more ridiculous. Lin Feng had condensed a mental power sphere. If he wanted to break through a minor realm, it would naturally be as simple as eating and drinking. As more than 8,000 strands of astral power boiled in his body, the speed at which Lin Feng converted astral power also increased greatly. Fortunately, Lin Feng had fused the genes of the pangolin beast demon, and his physique had improved substantially. Hence, the speed at which he converted astral power also increased immensely. Condensing 1,000 strands of astral power a day was not a problem. Lin Feng's astral power increased explosively. Gaining 1,000 strands of astral power per day meant gaining 10,000 strands in 10 days, and it was still increasing rapidly. 1 month, 2 months. Lin Feng's seclusion period was very long. It had almost been 3 months, but he had never left the secret chamber meanwhile. Updates by Com, including the time spent cultivating the mental guidance technique. Lin Feng had been in the secret chamber for almost 4 months. This was also the longest time Lin Feng had been in seclusion. Finally, when Lin Feng's astral power reached 80,000 strands, the speed of condensation gradually slowed down, and finally reached 80,009 strands. That was 80,009 strands of astral power. How massive was that? At least now, Lin Feng felt that every move he made contained unimaginable power. Having over 80,000 strands of astral power gave Lin Feng a great sense of security. Once all 80,000 strands of astral power erupted, how powerful would Lin Feng's strength become? Even Lin Feng himself would find it difficult to predict. However, just unleashing astral power was too wasteful. Astral martial arts were what could truly utilize astral power. Lin Feng deployed the void bubble. The beautiful void bubble was Lin Feng's strongest technique at the moment. However, in the past, he could only infuse at most 4,000 strands of astral power to form the astral bubble. If he tried to add more, he would be unable to control the stability of the astral bubble. Actually, it was precisely because Lin Feng's mental power was insufficient. Now, Lin Feng's mental power had increased by countless times, and his control methods had also improved substantially. Hence, Lin Feng was also looking forward to how much astral power he could infuse into the void bubble now. Lin Feng began to infuse a large amount of astral power into the magnificent astral bubble. 4,000 strands, 5,000 strands, 6,000 strands, 10,000 strands. In a brief moment, the astral bubble had been infused with 10,000 strands of astral power. However, Lin Feng did not feel any pressure at all, and seemed to be very relaxed. Continue. 20,000 strands, 30,000 strands, 40,000 strands. Lin Feng's astral power surged into the astral bubble in a frenzy. The astral bubble in Lin Feng's secret chamber was only 1 meter in diameter. It was originally translucent, but now the light had turned iridescent like a rainbow. It emitted a dreamy aura that was even more intoxicating. With so much astral power fused into the astral bubble, Lin Feng began to become cautious. This was no joke. Once the astral bubble collapsed, how terrifying would that be? However, Lin Feng still did not feel any pressure from 40,000 strands of astral power. He simply let go. In any case, his mental power sphere still had a large amount of mental power. 50,000 strands, 60,000 strands, 70,000 strands, 80,000 strands. In the end, Lin Feng fused all 80,000 strands of astral power into the astral bubble. However, his mental power was still at ease, and he did not feel much pressure at all. Lin Feng was very shocked. Compared to before, his use of mental power had improved by simply too much. The two were not even comparable. Before cultivating the mental guidance technique, Lin Feng could not even control his mental power. After cultivating the mental guidance technique, not only could Lin Feng easily break through to the third level of metamorphic realm, he could also easily control the stability of the astral bubble. Even without cultivating the combat body, this mental guidance technique had also brought tremendous changes to Lin Feng. Unbelievable. Breaking through realms is one thing, but in reality, in the cosmic cultivation system, there is no distinction between first, second, and third levels for the first and second life transitions. With the mental guidance technique, one can control their mental power freely. The 3 minor realms of the metamorphic realm are not difficult at all. However, what surprised Lin Feng even more was how mental power improved the void bubble. The martial artist who created the void bubble originally wanted to simulate the collapse of celestial bodies, so as to infinitely increase the power of the void bubble. However, due to the restriction of mental power, he was unable to control the astral bubble, which naturally limited the power of the void bubble. Now that Lin Feng had cultivated the mental guidance technique, his mental power had been reshaped wholly, and he could control his mental power freely. Hence, as long as he had enough astral power, he could unleash the strongest power of the void bubble. How powerful was an astral bubble condensed from 80,000 strands of astral power? Actually, even Lin Feng himself did not know. He could only sense that it contained an extremely terrifying power. Once it erupted, it would be unimaginable. Phew! Lin Feng waved his hand. With a thought, the astral bubble dissipated and disappeared. He was very satisfied with his current strength. He did not believe that there was anyone stronger than him in the metamorphic realm. Initially, Lin Feng wanted to practice nonable body tempering. With his current physique, without considering the 9th level, the 5th and 6th levels at least should not be a problem. It was just that Lin Feng did not have time to practice when he was underground. Actually, at this point, practicing nonable body tempering was no longer very meaningful to Lin Feng. After all, even if he reached the 9th level of nonable body tempering, could it compare to the astral bubble condensed from 80,000 strands of astral power? Although Lin Feng had never tried it before, there was no need to. He knew very well that it definitely could not compare. The only use of nonable body tempering now was that it could conceal the abnormality in Lin Feng's body. After all, he could not mobilize the 80,000 strands of astral power in his body casually. Normally, Lin Feng could only display the standard of 9,999 strands of astral power. This was the only way to conceal the abnormality of as many as 80,000 strands of astral power in his body. It was not that Lin Feng wanted to hide it, but that human nature was unpredictable. After experiencing the incident in Stone City, Lin Feng truly understood the fickleness of human nature. Even biological brothers could turn against each other. If so much as a little of the various secrets contained in his body was leaked, the consequences would be unthinkable. Hence, while he did not want to hide it, concealing it now was only to protect himself better. Only when his strength reached a level where no one could threaten him would he not care if these secrets were leaked. Beep beep beep. Suddenly, Lin Feng's communicator rang. Lin Feng picked up his communicator and realized that it was a call request from Dragon Rider Hao Shi. Lin Feng immediately picked up. Lord Hao Shi, why are you looking for me? Lin Feng, you've done a good job at the South Mountain base. I'm here to give you a message. The global martial arts competition is about to begin. I hope you can participate, although your strength is a little lacking. Seeing true top geniuses will also be very beneficial to you in the future. Global martial arts competition? What's that? Lin Feng was a little confused. He had never heard of this competition. I'm surprised you don't know. Go to the Martial Domain Network and take a look. Hurry up and sign up. With that, Hao Shi switched off his communicator, leaving Lin Feng with a confused expression. Global martial arts competition? Lin Feng was confused. Could something major have happened recently outside while he was in seclusion? Hence, Lin Feng quickly entered the Martial Domain Network and headed straight for the Martial Domain Forum. As expected, the Martial Domain Forum had almost been covered by the Global Martial Arts Competition. Almost every post was about the Global Martial Arts Competition. Turned out that this was really a huge matter. The 5 major factions had jointly announced that the first Global Martial Arts Competition would be held at the Polar Academy. It would be held every 10 years in the future. Moreover, there was only one requirement for registration, and that was being a metamorphic realm martial artist. Only metamorphic realm martial artists were qualified to register for the Global Martial Arts Competition. The Global Martial Arts Competition had already been publicized through various publicity channels. Now, almost everyone knew about the Global Martial Arts Competition. As long as one was in the top 10 of the Global Martial Arts Competition, they would receive very generous rewards. From wealth and status to reputation, almost all were awarded. The merit value that martial artists valued the most was also there, and the award for first place was as high as 10,000 merit value. Provided by the 5 major factions, the 10,000 merit value was enough to drive anyone insane. It had to be known that even if Lin Feng turned the tide in Dragonlith City and obtained the Hero of Humanity medal, and agreed to join the academic faction, he was only rewarded 1,000 merit value. A reward of 10,000 merit value at once was really generous. Even many Divine Realm experts would have to accumulate merit value for decades to obtain so much. What was hidden behind this was somewhat intriguing. Moreover, the 5 major factions held the Global Martial Arts Competition in such a grand manner, and even the 9 sages would deploy their projections to spectate the battle in the end. Practically all of these gave the Global Martial Arts Competition a lot of standing. Why was that? It was to build momentum. Without a doubt, this was to build momentum. And what was the purpose of building momentum at a global martial arts competition? updates by at most they could choose some outstanding metamorphic realm martial artists. However, even if these metamorphic realm martial artists all underwent a second life transition and became divine realm martial artists, they were still not worth so much attention from the 9 sages and the 5 major factions. Many people speculated and analyzed on the forum, but in Lin Feng's opinion, those were all nonsense. None of them hit the mark. Although 10,000 merit value is a lot, merit value doesn't seem to be of much use to me. Lin Feng muttered softly. He exited the martial domain forum. It was true that 10,000 merit value was indeed a huge number, and even divine realm martial artists were tempted. If any metamorphic realm martial artist obtained so much merit value, they would definitely be able to attain great success in a short period of time and obtain any resources they wanted. However, Lin Feng was not interested at all. He had already embarked on the cosmic cultivation system. He did not have much need for astral martial arts, items that studied astral power, or resources that involved astral power. Most of the things in the Martial Domain Network's online shop were some astral power cultivation techniques, astral martial arts, or some protective armor, weapons, and so on. In the past, Lin Feng might have been envious, but with his current strength, he did not need them at all. If he could undergo a second life transition in the future, he would only condense a combat body. Why would he need those astral martial arts? These 10,000 merit value were not attractive to Lin Feng at all. In fact, who knew if there was any hidden agenda behind the 5 major factions' great effort to promote the global martial arts competition? Hence, Lin Feng's interest in participating in the global martial arts competition naturally faded. Perhaps only the fact that the Polar Academy was organizing this global martial arts competition touched Lin Feng's heart slightly, because there was still someone in the Polar Academy that Lin Feng could not forget. You must go to the global martial arts competition. Suddenly, a familiar voice sounded in Lin Feng's ear. Long Betham? Lin Feng picked up his communicator. It was Long Betham. During this period of time, Long Betham had been roaming the internet. Lin Feng did not even know if Long Betham had caused any trouble. Why must I go? Lin Feng asked instead. Long Betham actually made a projection from the communicator. It was unknown how he did it. After all, the screen of the communicator did not have the function of projecting. It is quite good that you can master the first level of the mental guidance technique and condense a mental power sphere in such a short amount of time. Do you still want to undergo a second life transition in the future? Of course. If I can't undergo a second life transition, why would I work so hard to cultivate the mental guidance technique? Lin Feng was not humble. At the very least, he had to achieve the second life transition. In fact, his ambition did not stop there. He hoped to achieve 3, 4, or even 5 life transitions. Since he already knew about the vast universe and such a miraculous cosmic cultivation system, how could he not look forward to being able to travel freely in the cosmos one day? Long Betham's face seemed to have become more expressive. Its projection shook its head and said, "Since you want to undergo a second life transition and even want to cultivate the combat body, you must participate in this global martial arts competition. Although you are still some distance away from a second life transition, do you know how much energy is needed to cultivate the combat body? With your current wealth and status, it is impossible for you to obtain so much energy. I have also learned about the distribution of resources within your society on the internet. Without a doubt, a large amount of resources is under the control of martial artists like you. If you want to obtain these resources, you must purchase them with merit value. You can buy a lot of energy with 10,000 merit value. Although it is still not enough to support your cultivation of the combat body, it should suffice as long as you work hard to collect some more energy in the future. Therefore, you must participate in the global martial arts competition and get the first place in order to obtain the 10,000 merit value." Lin Feng looked at Long Betham carefully. He was also considering it. Cultivating the combat body required a lot of energy. On careful thought, it was true. If a second life transition combat body could really reach over 100 meters, then such a massive combat body would indeed require a massive amount of energy. It was just like how Lin Feng needed a large amount of nutrient solutions when fusing the genes of dire beasts to allow the various attributes of his body to improve rapidly. Those nutrient solutions were actually also a source of energy. It was hard for Lin Feng to imagine how much energy was required for a combat body over 100 meters. In terms of nutrient solutions, it would probably far exceed a few or dozens of bottles. What else? Since you're so powerful online, have you found the real reason behind this global martial arts competition? Lin Feng had a sudden thought. Since Longbetham was omnipotent on the internet, perhaps it could learn of some secrets behind this global martial arts competition. The secrets behind it? Even you sensed the abnormality of this global martial arts competition. Looks like you are not too stupid. Longbetham had always flaunted its superior intelligence. Lin Feng could only shake his head. It was meaningless to talk about intelligence with a mechanical life form. They had lived among all kinds of data and information since they were young. When it came to grasping data and information, it was very difficult for any human to surpass a mechanical life form. This global martial arts competition is jointly promoted by the 5 major factions. According to the clues, they probably want to push your society to enter the martial arts era. The martial arts era? With martial arts as the focus and technology as the supplement. Lin Feng was a little stunned, because this kind of debate had been going on for a long time in the past, but never came to a definitive conclusion. Each side had its own supporters, and neither could convince the other. In the past, the 5 major factions did not interfere directly and allowed the 2 parties to continue debating. They probably wanted society to develop step by step. Why were they in such a hurry to directly interfere with this kind of social change now? I also continued to investigate and found that the ultimate source was the 9 sages. The 9 sages of your human society are very interesting. They usually do not interfere with developmental matters of human society. But this occasion is an exception. There must be a reason behind it. However, there is very little information regarding this on the network, and I am unable to obtain any valid information. However, this global martial arts competition is an opportunity. Perhaps the 9 sages will reveal some information then. Lin Feng nodded. Since the 9 sages were involved, there was no way to investigate further. Originally, Lin Feng did not intend to participate in the global martial arts competition. However, since Longbetham said that cultivating the combat body required a massive amount of energy, he would have to participate. Hence, Lin Feng logged into the Martial Domain Network again and found the academic faction panel. There was a direct link for registration on it. Sign up. Lin Feng filled in his detailed information. As for his cultivation level, he directly filled the 3rd level of Metamorphic Realm. It had actually only been half a year since he broke the genetic lock. Updates by breaking through from the 1st level of Metamorphic Realm to the 3rd level of the Metamorphic Realm in half a year was certainly unprecedented, if not definitely unsurpassed in the future. Although this might attract some attention, there was nothing Lin Feng could do. If he relied on the standard of the 1st or 2nd level of Metamorphic Realm alone, no matter how strong the power of his physical body was, there was no way he could obtain 1st place in the global martial arts competition. To Lin Feng, his only goal was 1st place. If he did not obtain 1st place, it would be a failure. Lin Feng looked at the time on it. There were still 2 or 3 months left, which was more than enough. During this period of time, he could also make arrangements for the South Mountain Base. Everyone in the South Mountain Base had also heard that Lin Feng was going to participate in the global martial arts competition. They were naturally very supportive. Lin Feng's performance at the South Mountain Base and the North Mountain Base had already convinced everyone in the South Mountain Base. They knew that Lin Feng already had the strength of a 3rd-level Metamorphic Realm expert. Then, taking advantage of these 2 or 3 months, Lin Feng worked hard to master the 5th and 6th levels of non-opal body tempering. However, the 6th level was almost Lin Feng's limit at the moment. Unless his physical body could continue to strengthen, the 6th level was his limit. It was impossible to cultivate to the 9th level. Lin Feng was even dubious of what the invincible 5th sage was trying to achieve by creating this martial technique. Even Lin Feng, who had such a powerful body, could only cultivate it to the 6th level. Could it be that he could only cultivate it to the 9th level after cultivating the combat body? But if he really cultivated the combat body, the non-opal body tempering would probably be useless. However, the sixth level was not bad either. This gave 6 spiral forces. If they erupted at full force, there would be 3,600 tons of strength. In addition to the original 600 tons of strength, there would be more than 4,000 tons of strength in total. This was just the raw strength of the physical body. In fact, this was already quite powerful. It was unheard of for a physical body to unleash 4,000 tons of strength. The eruption of 1,000 strands of astral power was equivalent to 4,000 tons of strength. But how many third-level metamorphic realm martial artists would dare to unleash 1,000 strands of astral power so lightly? Even if they did, how many times could they unleash it? At most, they could only unleash it 9 times. However, with Lin Feng's physique, he could unleash the 6 spiral forces dozens of times without any problems. Moreover, Lin Feng still had astral power. Even if he only displayed the limit of an ordinary third-level metamorphic realm martial artist, which was only 9,999 strands of astral power, these 9,999 strands of astral power could all be infused into the void bubble. How strong could a void bubble that erupted like that be? Moreover, Lin Feng had all kinds of incredible innate abilities. Hence, Lin Feng was determined to get first place in the global martial arts competition this time. 5 days before the global martial arts competition, Lin Feng received a call request from Chief Commander Mo Lei of the North Mountain Base. Mo Lei had also signed up to participate in the global martial arts competition. After all, such a grand event was held once every 10 years. Mo Lei was already a third-level metamorphic realm martial artist, so he was naturally qualified to participate. Brother Lin Feng. Mo Lei landed at the South Mountain Base in a small airship. Brother Mo Lei. Brother Lin Feng, get on the airship. Let's go to the Polar Academy together. Then I won't deny your generosity. Lin Feng did not stand on ceremony. In terms of speed, the airships from the North Mountain Base were faster. The two of them boarded the airship. After bidding farewell to the people in the South Mountain Base, the airship set off and quickly left the South Mountain Base. The airship was very stable, and the facilities inside were very luxurious. Mo Lei and Lin Feng sat at the dining table. They even opened a bottle of wine. The sumptuous food on the table emitted an alluring fragrance. Mo Lei smiled and said, "Come on, Brother Lin Feng. Let's have a good drink today. I haven't thanked you properly for saving the North Mountain Base with your men." Brother Mo Lei, you're too kind. It was a rare opportunity for Lin Feng to relax, so he started drinking with Mo Lei. The two of them chatted about all kinds of things, and their interests aligned. Gradually, they became closer. Brother Lin Feng, you're the most talented martial artist I've ever seen. In half a year, you've advanced from the first level of Metamorphic Realm to the third level of Metamorphic Realm. You'll definitely shine in this global martial arts competition. Thank you for your kind words, Brother Mo Lei. Lin Feng did not conceal his realm. After all, it would be made public sooner or later. However, Mo Lei was only a little surprised, and not too taken aback. After all, back at the North Mountain Base, the strength Lin Feng had displayed was already not inferior to a third-level Metamorphic Realm martial artist, and might even be stronger. Brother Lin Feng, martial artists like us are determined to advance without leaving any regrets within. Otherwise, how can we break the genetic lock? You have to seize the opportunity to go to the Polar Academy this time. Follow your heart. We must fight for those who are worth fighting for. With your strength and your current achievements, what's there to be afraid of? Moray gave a half-smile, implying something with his words. Lin Feng did not know if he was really drunk, or if it's because of the person in his heart, whom he could never let go. He actually told Mo Lei about such a thing. However, Mo Lei's words made a ripple in Lin Feng's heart, which could no longer be calmed. The airship was very fast. As Lin Feng was drunk, he fell into a deep sleep. When he woke up, he could already see a huge city ahead. Brother Lin Feng, how was it? Did you sleep well? Mo Lei asked with a faint smile. Lin Feng felt that Mo Lei's smile seemed a little strange. I haven't slept so well in a long time. Have we arrived at the Polar Academy? Look, the Polar City is ahead. The Polar Academy is in the Polar City. A lot of people have come to the Polar City from everywhere recently. As expected, Lin Feng saw many airships outside their airship, densely packed as they flew towards the polar city. Back when Sage Bingyu established the Polar Academy, her original intention was just to nurture some martial artists. Hence, she built the Polar Academy at the front line, where it often faced the threat of dire beasts. However, over the years, the dire beasts around the Polar Academy had long been driven away by the martial artists of the Polar Academy. This place was no longer the front line, but a prosperous city. Around the Polar Academy, there were even clusters of economically prosperous cities with large populations. Lin Feng also secretly admired Sage Bingyu. As the only woman among the 9 sages, Sage Bingyu's growth had long been legendary. What was even more legendary was that after Sage Bingyu became a sage, she established the Polar Academy near the front line, allowing the martial artists of the Polar Academy to often face the threat of dire beasts. In the end, she actually opened up a large area of rich frontier for humanity. Thinking about it, the Myriad Academy and the Holy Capital Academy were both established in the most prosperous places. It was no wonder that the Polar Academy was vaguely the leader of the 3 major martial academies. It was not that Sage Bingyu was the strongest, but that the overall strength of the Polar Academy was indeed stronger than the Holy Capital Academy and the Myriad Academy. "We're here." The airship slowly flew into Polar City. There were staff specifically in charge of guiding the airship to land. Lin Feng and Mo Lei walked out of the airship and realized that there were already countless airships docked here. The two of them walked to the main street, where martial artists were densely packed everywhere. There were also a large number of ordinary people, especially some reporters, who interviewed some martial artists on the spot. Some of these martial artists were humble, while others were more confident and spoke eloquently. They appeared intent about showcasing their skills at this global martial arts competition. There were also some merchants who waved large amounts of money and asked some martial artists to endorse. As long as they wore the clothes of the merchants or printed some advertisements when participating in the competition, they could obtain a large sum of money. These businessmen were all very shrewd. This was also the first time such a martial arts competition was held. The 5 major factions had spent a lot of money to build it, and there was overwhelming publicity all over the world. When the time came, it would also be broadcast live on television and online. How huge a business opportunity would this be? However, very few martial artists agreed to be sponsored. After all, martial artists who could participate in the global martial arts competition were basically all metamorphic realm martial artists who had broken the genetic lock. Who would care about a little endorsement fee? They wanted merit value, but these merchants did not have the ability to obtain merit value. Only the 5 major factions were qualified to distribute merit value. How lively! Mo Lei also sighed. In all the years he had been an inhuman expert, he had never encountered such a grand martial arts competition. This could be considered globally participated. "Brother Lin Feng, let's go. Some of my good friends have also arrived. They're all chief commanders of some bases. I'll introduce you to them." Lin Feng nodded. He did not know many people in the Polar Academy, so he might as well follow Mo Lei to meet other martial artists. After all, in terms of connections, Lin Feng had only broken the genetic lock for more than 8 months. How could he compare to Mo Lei, who had been inhuman for decades? He followed Mo Lei to a hotel. More than 10 martial artists were gathered in the lounge inside, chatting and laughing. When Mo Lei entered, the martial artists also greeted him. "Come on, let me introduce everyone. This is Brother Lin Feng from the South Mountain Base. He's also here to participate in the global martial arts competition." The other martial artists had actually noticed Lin Feng long ago. He looked a little familiar, but they did not ask. Hearing Mo Lei's introduction, some martial artists asked in surprise, "Could it be Lin Feng, who obtained the Hero of Humanity medal?" "That's right, it's Brother Lin Feng." Mo Lei laughed and introduced these martial artists to Lin Feng. "Brother Lin Feng, this is the chief commander of the Freelance Cultivators Union's Nimbus base. This is the chief commander of the Gloaming base. This is..." Lin Feng also exchanged a few pleasantries with them one by one. Although these martial artists all felt that Lin Feng was very young, they were naturally very polite to Lin Feng. Seeing Mo Lei's proper introduction, and that he was the owner of the Hero of Humanity medal. Lin Feng, I heard that the new policy for martial artists was implemented so quickly because you caused a scene in Stone City. All the martial artists at the front line have you to thank. That's right. Let those cowards from the government faction have a taste of life-or-death battles with dire beasts at the front line. Haha. Ever since the new policy for martial artists was implemented, the inhuman experts of those government factions went to the front line. I heard that there were heavy casualties. TSK. It's so satisfying. Those cowards didn't dare to go to the front line in the past. It's time to make them suffer now. Most of these martial artists were martial artists from the Freelance Cultivators Union. After all, Mole was also a martial artist from the Freelance Cultivators Union. They all had the same attitude towards martial artists from the government faction, and looked down on them. Then, these martial artists discussed the matter of this global martial arts competition. Although they had all signed up to participate in the global martial arts competition, in reality, they knew their own limits. No one was really arrogant enough to think that they could enter the top 10. This was a gathering of most of the metamorphic realm martial artists in the world. Who would dare to claim that they would definitely be able to enter the top 10? They just wanted to show off a little on this big stage. After all, it would be a pity if they did not participate in such a grand event personally. Mole chatted enthusiastically with everyone. But Lin Feng was a little dispirited. These people were ultimately Mole's friends, not his. At this moment, Lin Feng thought of Yushan. Initially, Lin Feng wanted Yushan to come along, but Yushan said that it would be too embarrassing for a mere first-level metamorphic realm like himself to participate in the global martial arts competition. No amount of persuasion could get him to come. Great, now Lin Feng was alone in Polar City. As if sensing that Lin Feng was somewhat uncomfortable, Mole asked softly, "Brother Lin Feng, how about we return to the hotel first?" Lin Feng shook his head and said, "You haven't met your friends for many years. How can you leave so soon?" "I'm fine. I'll return to the hotel myself first." Mole thought for a moment and did not insist. In any case, they had exchanged contact methods. They could just contact each other when the time came. Hence, Lin Feng bade farewell and left. However, he did not return to the hotel. Instead, he strolled along the streets alone. Suddenly, his communicator rang. Lin Feng took out his communicator and saw that it was Dragon Rider Hao Shi. "Lin Feng, you've arrived at the Polar City?" "Lord Hao Shi, I just arrived at the Polar City." "All right. Come to the Polar Hotel quickly." Hao Shi did not care if Lin Feng agreed or not. With that, he hung up. Although Lin Feng was a little taken aback, he could only rush to the Polar Hotel. The Polar Hotel was the most luxurious hotel in Polar City. It was usually open for business, but since the global martial arts competition was held, the Polar Hotel had to accommodate the global martial arts competition. Hence, only Divine Realm and Metadivine Realm martial artists could stay in the Polar Hotel. Lin Feng was stopped at the entrance of the hotel and could only contact Hao Shi. With Hao Shi's confirmation, the hotel staff let Lin Feng in. The facilities in the hotel were naturally top-notch. Otherwise, why would they specially accommodate distinguished Divine Realm and Metadivine Realm experts? When Lin Feng arrived at the conference hall according to Hao Shi's instructions, he realized that there were more than 10 martial artists inside. All of them had an obscure and oppressive aura. Divine Realm. Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat. This was the second time he had seen those of the Divine Realm. In the past, the only Divine Realm experts he had seen were Zhang Zifeng and Hao Shi. However, both Zhang Zifeng and Hao Shi made Lin Feng feel oppressed. It was a pressure in terms of the level of life. This time, when Lin Feng saw Hao Shi again, although he still felt that sense of oppression, he was no longer the same as before. In particular, the large amount of astral power in his body far exceeded that of any third-level metamorphic realm martial artist. In fact, he might even be a match for a Divine Realm martial artist, but he would only know after actually fighting them. Hence, he also had some confidence, and his attitude was neither servile nor overbearing. "Lord Hao Shi," Lin Feng said calmly. "Lin Feng? Come in quickly." "Xia Lao Gui. This is the young lad I was talking about." "Lin Feng." Hao Shi said to a tall, elderly man with a ruddy face. Xia Laogui was naturally also a divine realm martial artist. His eyes narrowed slightly as he said, "Oh, so you're Lin Feng? TSK, not bad at all. You obtained the Hero of Humanity medal in Dragonlith City and caused a stir in Stone City. The little fellow can really cause trouble. But even Lord Sage remembers your name. He even introduced the new policy for martial artists in advance. Not bad indeed." Xia Laogui seemed to be very impressed by Lin Feng and kept praising him. "Lord Hao Shi, why did you call me here?" Lin Feng looked at these divine realm martial artists. All of them were actually divine realm martial artists. It was incredible that so many divine realm martial artists could gather in ordinary times. "It's good for you to get to know these seniors." As soon as Hao Shi finished speaking, Xia Laogui laughed loudly and said, "Haha, Hao Shi, you want this young lad to support you, right? None of the disciples you accepted in the past are worthwhile. What now? Are you asking young Lin Feng to fight for your reputation this time?" Lin Feng gave Hao Shi an odd look. In the past, he had thought that Hao Shi was a little cold and aloof, but now it seemed like that was not the case at all. Hao Shi's tone became harsher as he said, "Humph. What? Are you envious?" Although Lin Feng is only at the first level of metamorphic realm, his ability is comparable to a second level of metamorphic realm martial artist. Can any of your disciples do that? Lin Feng felt a little helpless. This was really why Hao Shi had called him over for. However, he glanced at the surrounding divine realm martial artists. They were all dignified divine realm martial artists. Was it necessary for a mere metamorphic realm martial artist like himself to fight for his face? "Hey, I don't believe you. Hao Shi, you're indeed very strong. We all admit that." Although Lin Feng also obtained the Hero of Humanity medal, that was a coincidence. I remember that he had just broken the genetic lock for a few months, less than a year, right? Doesn't it embarrass you to ask him to sign up for the global martial arts competition? Why, Xia Laogui, you're not convinced? Then just ask your disciple to spar with Lin Feng. Hao Shi looked at Xia Laogui provocatively. He was very confident in Lin Feng. "All right, Yuma. Go up and spar with Lin Feng." "Yes, master." A tall and beautiful girl walked out from behind Xia Laogui. However, she was not just ornamental in her beauty, but a second-level metamorphic realm martial artist. She was also a disciple Xia Laogui was proud of. This time, Xia Laogui brought his disciples to the Polar City to broaden their horizons. Although he did not let Yuma sign up for the global martial arts competition, he was very confident in Yuma. Yuma was not an ordinary second-level metamorphic realm martial artist. With the guidance of Xia Laogui, a divine realm martial artist, how could she be poor? Lin Feng, go and give it a try. Take it as the warm-up for the global martial arts competition. Hao Shi also patted Lin Feng's shoulder and said in an encouraging tone, Lin Feng glanced at Yuma, then at the excited surrounding divine realm martial artists. Were these actually divine realm martial artists? The Zhang Zifeng he saw back then was a high and almighty self-proclaimed deity. Even Hao Shi back then was peerlessly domineering. How did so many divine realm martial artists end up like this when they gathered together? "Brother Lin, please enlighten me," Yuma also said seriously. Seeing Lin Feng hesitate, Hao Shi said, "Lin Feng, hurry up and go. Don't tell me you haven't improved at all after being in the South Mountain base for so long. You weren't so timid in Stone City back then. Don't worry, I've got your back. Xia Laogui isn't such a petty person. If you win, Xia Laogui will definitely give you some rewards. Isn't that right, Xia Laogui? Hao Shi, you really know how to fight for benefits for the young lad. But are you so confident that Lin Feng will definitely win?" Xia Laogui was tit for tat. Lin Feng looked at Yuma in front of him. Actually, Yuma was a little older than him, but she appeared more juvenile. Moreover, she appeared very nervous among the many divine realm martial artists. Clearly, she was affected by these divine realm experts. There were very few metamorphic realm martial artists like Lin Feng, who was completely unaffected by divine realm experts. "Senior Xia, Lord Hao Shi, I think there's no need to compete anymore. Lin Feng thought for a moment and decided to tell the truth. Why? Do you look down on Yumo? Xia Laogui's expression darkened. He seemed very amiable now, but that was before how she and the other divine realm experts. If they were outside, he would be very strict indeed. No, Senior Xia has misunderstood. Lin Feng hurriedly explained. Lin Feng, don't be wishy-washy. Just do it. How she was also a little displeased. Lin Feng seemed so efficient usually. Why was he so reluctant today? Lord How Shi, I'll be honest. I've already broken through to the third level of metamorphic realm. Lin Feng did not hide it anymore and said it directly. What did you say? Third level of metamorphic realm? You? How Shi's eyes widened as he stared at Lin Feng. Yes, sir. Lin Feng gritted his teeth and nodded directly. In any case, he was here to participate in the global martial arts competition, so he had to display the strength of someone from the third level of metamorphic realm. Hence, it made no difference whether he disclosed it sooner or later. Seeing Lin Feng nod with a solemn expression, all the divine realm martial artists in the conference hall stared at Lin Feng intently. Time seemed to have stopped. The entire conference hall was so quiet that one could hear a pin drop. No one spoke for a long time.